Tonight we'll be talking about the art of aging well and what your future self would want you to know. If you're assuming that, like many people who discuss wellness, he's here to tell us something, well, you'll be right. But what he's selling is not a nutritional supplement or some kind of fitness gizmo. It's the awareness that while we get older, we don't have to get old. As Jim discovered, there's plenty of scientific evidence that even as decades go by, we still have the power to slow down the aging process and even turn back the clock.
Yay!
Jim himself is a living proof of that. He's going to tell us how, starting at the age of 70, he was able to go from being weak, low energy, and racked with chronic back pain to being geezer fit. Geezer fit is a term Jim coined himself in order to make 2 points. Number one, getting fit when you're 60 or 70 is not the same as you're 30 or 40. Number two, getting older is not something to be ashamed of. In fact, being older and enjoying life, it's something to celebrate. It's also in keeping with Jim's style, which is not to take yourself too seriously. Even you were featured on NBC Today show, as Jim and his wife Tanya were last fall. What he does take seriously is the mission he has embraced as his life purpose. Now approaching 80 years young, as he puts it, Jim is energized by his desire to help every older adult live longer and live better. That's why he spent 2 years writing Just Move.
Just Move.
A step-by-step guide to fitness after 50, which was published by the National Geographic in 2017. It's why he's launched the Just Move campaign, a public health effort aimed at getting America moving again, and why he's currently producing a 30-minute documentary film, The Art of Aging Well, which will be provided free of charge to broadcasters and senior organizations all around the nation. It's also why he's here with us tonight. I know you'll all be inspired by Jim's story of personal transformation and perhaps come away with ideas for making positive life changes of your own. Please join me in welcoming Jim Owen. One more thing, tomorrow on NBC in the morning, Jim is going to be featured at 9:30 in the morning.
Well, that's the affiliate, the NBC affiliate here in town. Thanks so much, Michael. If someone had told me 9 years ago I'd be on the NBC Today show talking about fitness and aging well, I'd have laughed out loud. I was just turning 70 and in terrible shape. My back was killing me. Both knees were shot. I was a good 20 or 25 pounds overweight. And if that weren't enough, my right rotator cuff was frozen. That's no fun, I'll tell you. I looked in the mirror and couldn't help thinking, so this is what old age looks like. So when I told my wife, this is Stanya, my wife for 51 years, I was afraid I'm becoming an old man. She said, "Sweetheart, don't worry about that." She said, "What'd you say?" "You still got game." Then she said, "Unfortunately, the game is bingo." Talking about feeling defeated. Well, here I am, 9 years later, in the best shape of my life. So I weigh less today than I did in high school. And I've gone from being unable to do a single push-up to doing 50. And best of all, my doctor says my test numbers are like those of someone 20 years younger. But best of all, my back pain has gone away. So since I appeared on this Today show last November, I've had quite a few questions from folks asking about my transformation. And I thought what I would do this evening is discuss some of those questions. And of course, answer any that you all may have. So let me start with the first one. I love this question. Let me find the question. Jim, I saw you on the Today Show and couldn't help laughing at your t-shirt that said geezer fit. What exactly does geezer fit mean? Well, to me, it's about having good mobility, being able to move around freely without aches and pains. And it also means having as much the kind of energy I had when I was younger. Now, to you, it might be something quite different. Being able to go for a hike with your grandchildren, being able to live in your own home independently as long as you possibly can. Several people have asked, what was the hardest part of your transformation? Yeah, you guessed it, by far the hardest thing was getting off the couch. So like many people, I should say this, I'm almost ashamed to admit this, but I could have been the poster boy for the couch potatoes of America. Really embarrassing. But like many people, older people, I spent 8, 10, even 12 hours a day sitting. And whether hunched over a computer like this, riding in a car, or maybe watching TV. You used to think about reading a book, but nobody seems to be reading books anymore. Kindle, that's right. But I learned the hard way that sitting too much leads to all kinds of problems. In my case, it led to some pretty serious back issues. But there's more to it than that. A sedentary way of life, and that's what we're talking about, sitting. It's a sedentary way of life, is one reason why 4 out of every 10 Americans are not just overweight, they're obese. And you think about that just for a minute. We have the highest rate of obesity in the world. It's pretty scary, higher than Mexico and Brazil and that kind of stuff. And what we've learned, and I think every medical professional would agree with this statement, people who don't get regular physical activity are at much higher risk of developing serious, life-threatening conditions like heart disease, diabetes, various forms of cancer, not to mention Alzheimer's. It's pretty amazing to think there's the lack of physical activities that all too often lead to this, very serious conditions. The good news, we can dramatically cut those risks by making small lifestyle changes. I don't quite have this speech down yet. I think people often think that DNA determines how well you age. But science tells us that's not true. That genes play only a minor role, maybe 20%. Okay? By far, the biggest culprit is lifestyle choices. And if there's any one message tonight, it's that small changes in your life, in all of our lifestyles, doesn't matter how old you are, can make a profound difference in your health and how well you age. Another frequently asked question I get is, how did you get started? Well, I came across one statistic. I think this is Mayo Clinic, out of a very large population. If you make it to 70, the odds are you'll live at least another 15 years. And I didn't know that. I wow, really? And when I imagined, again, I just turned 70. When I imagined what those years might look like, that was all the motivation I needed to get off the couch. I knew I'd have to ease into it. There's no quick fix for years of inactivity. So I started by simply walking. And it's almost embarrassing to tell this, but at first I could barely walk 3 blocks without getting winded. But I kept working at it, and before long I was able to walk 20 or 30 minutes at a pretty brisk pace. So going on regular walks accomplished 2 things. I think this is the key to it. One, first, I got in the habit, and that's what we're talking, is a habit of doing some kind of physical activity 4 or 5 times a week. And secondly, I felt much more energetic, more alive, all because of walking, 4 or 5 times a week. It was really amazing. And that's when I realized my age wasn't a barrier to getting fit. And this question comes up a lot. What did your fitness program look like? And how did you know what to do? Well, figuring out what to do wasn't easy, because so much of the fitness information out there is aimed at younger adults who are into bodybuilding, competitive sports, looking good in a bathing suit. Not that anything's wrong with that, but so I had more practical goals, like getting rid of my aches and pains. I did a lot of research and talked to any number of folks with different perspectives on aging well. I talked to doctors and physical therapists and personal trainers, yoga and Pilates instructors, and I even talked to gerontologists. And what I'm going to tell you, this is really a big surprise. I learned that strength training becomes even more important when you're older. Does anybody want to guess why that's true? Anybody want to guess? I didn't know this.
You lose muscle mass.
Yeah, I can tell you work out. Are you a doctor?
No.
Okay, that's it.
I have a good doctor.
We start losing lean muscle mass around the age of 30. So by the time you reach 70, it's not uncommon that you've lost half of your muscle mass. I mean, it's really shocking, as you had when you were in your 20s. So the thing is, and we're not talking about being Charles Atlas now, or Mr. Olympia. We're just saying that you need muscular strength if you're older, if you want to stand up straight, if you want to get through your daily activities without getting injured, okay? Or You want to support joints that aren't so young anymore. So like a lot of older people, I was especially weak in my core. How many of you all know what the core is? Because I didn't. You do. You work out.
No, I'm weak in the core.
No, I didn't know. I thought the core meant your six-pack, to be honest about it. No, little did I know. So your core is a band around your midsection. It starts in your upper thighs and extends all the way up to here. Okay, and it's what gives support to your whole system. So that, together with my not so great sense of balance, put me at high risk of a fall. Does anybody want to guess how the frequency of falls is among folks who are 65 and older? It's starting.
Did he say
1
staggering?
in 3 adults over 65 suffer a fall every year. And now comes the bad news. If you fall once, statistically, you're likely to fall again within a year. And we've all had good friends. I think Stanya and I can think of 6, 7 friends in the last 2 or 3 months that have fallen. So it's pretty scary. I also scored low in flexibility, which limited my movements and made my back pain even worse. So one thing's for sure, if you want to age well, doing brisk walking or some other form of cardio is essential. Let's all agree upon that. Cardio is essential, but by itself isn't enough. This was the big wake-up call for me. I thought, if I do cardio, I'll be okay. It's not enough. So you've got to include some kind of strength training. So the bottom line is it takes a well-rounded program. You can't just do one thing. So some people could think, I got on the treadmill this morning for 30 minutes. That's not bad. But if that's all you do, you're really leaving out a very important part of what you should be doing. You have to do a variety of physical activities. Again, we're not talking now about lifting heavy. So part of the problem I think that I know I faced is I kept thinking about bodybuilding. We're not talking about bodybuilding, lifting heavy weights. Anybody who would do that, well, I guess Arnold Schwarzenegger still does it. But other than that, I don't lift heavy. I do a lot of body weight stuff and dumbbells and that kind of stuff, TRX. But I don't lift heavy, and I wouldn't at my age, by the way. So my own program is I do strength training 3 times a week. And then on my off days, I do pretty high intensity cardio. And I've also taken yoga, Pilates, and movement classes and incorporated what I learned into my routine. Do I recommend this program for other older adults? The answer is no, not necessarily. And the reason is, while we know that virtually everyone needs some kind of strength training and some form of cardio, and this is kind of an important point in tonight's talk, there's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all program. And please don't let anybody tell you that they've got the, quote, keys to the kingdom. Doesn't exist. So a lot depends upon the condition you're in, the physical issues you're dealing with, and frankly, how much effort you want to put into it. The Optima, I think, is a program tailored to your particular goals and, very importantly, to your weaknesses. So one trap that I see so many of my friends get into is they work on their strengths and they totally neglect their weaknesses. So an example would be somebody who's a runner. I'm not a runner. Okay, I've got friends who run, half marathon last weekend in Austin. And what do they do on their off days? They'll be on a treadmill, and they should be doing some strength training because they will get injured. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but I guarantee you, if you don't stretch and you don't do some strength training and you run a lot, you're going to get injured. That's all it is. And that's going to set you back. So in my case, I wanted above all to get rid of my excruciating back pain. The doctors, anybody's got back pain, I strongly recommend the first visit should be to a doctor. And the doctors, thank goodness, ruled out skeletal problems. So I don't have that issue. So I turned to a physical therapist for an assessment. And he took one look at watching me move, and it took him about 10 minutes to figure out that my weak core and my tight hips, I've been plagued with both, were the likely cause of my lower back pain. And what he said to me was, Jim, all parts of the body are connected. I didn't know this, in what's called the kinetic chain. So any part of the body that's weak or dysfunctional can cause problems, issues in other parts of the body. And this was total news to me. But if, for example, you have an issue with your right ankle, which I happen to have, that can actually cause you to walk funny, or a tight right hip can actually be the source of your back pain. I didn't know any of this stuff, but this proved to be a game changer. So for the first 3 years, I'm in my 10th year of working out now. I spent a good 30 minutes of every workout strengthening my core and doing exercises that loosen my tight hips. So the best part of my body is not my biceps or my back. No, it's my core. I have a very strong core because of what I did over, 9 years, I guess you can call it. But that's why I have no back pain. Here's one that I'm sure you all thought about. How do you stay motivated week after week, month after month? A lot of people think the hardest part is getting started. That's true. I think even harder may be continuing your program. I think you have to rely on habit rather than willpower. So willpower is kind of fickle. You can't always count on it. But science tells us, and I found this fascinating, it takes 4 to 6 weeks to develop a new habit. So if you start an exercise program, stick with it. And if you can just hang in there for maybe 4, 5, or 6 weeks, you'll start feeling better. I promise you. And it's that feeling better that's going to motivate you to come back. Why would you stop if you're feeling better? So you'll also find, this has been so true in my case, that getting results that you can measure is the best motivator of all. I keep real careful track, it's just me talking, about what I'm doing when I exercise. I like looking back and seeing kind of the progress I've made. And when you start exercising after being inactive, this is interesting, results tend to come pretty quickly. But if you hit a plateau, don't get discouraged. We all hit a plateau. Believe me, we all do. They may come after a year, they come after 3 or 4 years. But when that happens, change up the routine a little bit. Or up the intensity just a little bit. And all I can say is that my philosophy in terms of working out is, if it's working for you, just keep doing it. When it stops working, try something different. It's pretty straightforward. I'm sure that nobody in this room has ever had to face this, but I get this question quite a bit. Jim, I need to lose at least 20 pounds. Any suggestions? Well, I don't claim to be an expert on losing weight. I can only tell you what helped me drop 55 pounds from 205 to around 150 today. Some years back, when I was at my heaviest, I realized if I don't get serious about losing weight, nothing's going to happen. So I signed up for an intensive week-long program at Canyon Ranch. Have any of you all been to Canyon Ranch? Yeah, there you go. I loved it. And I spent a week there. Stanya didn't get too upset. I went on I think, was it New Year's Day or the next day? And I cannot say enough good things about it. Again, excuse me for turning these pages. But I learned that because your metabolism slows as you get older, it's really challenging for most people to lose weight when they're older. I didn't know this, to be honest about it. So your metabolism slows pretty dramatically as you age. And this is a major reason why it's really hard for almost everyone to lose weight. So Canyon Ranch also taught me why fad diets don't work. Why it makes sense to choose real food over the processed kind. The importance of portion control and all the other basics of healthy eating. I took their advice and got down to 175 pounds. The problem was I felt weak and had no energy. Anybody want to guess why that's true? Anybody? I wasn't exercising. So yes, it's true. I went from 205 to 175. Boy, that's pretty good. Yeah. But there was a missing piece. And as a result, I was losing muscle as well as fat. That's the problem. So that was my wake-up call. So I hate the word diet, but when I combined what we'll call diet and exercising, that's when I was able to drop the last 25 pounds. It really was not that difficult. So now that I know what to do, I feel pretty confident I can stay at this level. I know so many people. I used to watch this Biggest Loser thing, and I'm sure some of y'all have seen that. And it's really, they don't tell you this, but what's the bad news about the Biggest Loser?
They gain it back.
They gain it back, and it's shocking. It's something like 90%. And the program's coming back, I understand.
The biggest gainer.
Yeah, the biggest. Thank you. That's great. The biggest.
It's the sequel.
The sequel. I like that. The biggest gainer. So, just a couple of ideas. Every day, I write down everything I eat. I've learned how to just say no to certain things, like rich foods and heavily fried stuff and desserts loaded with sugar. And there's an old saying, you are what you don't eat. That's actually pretty true. But for me, it's about moderation. It's not about self-denial. So sure, I'll have a piece of pie or cake or something like that, but not every day. I also drink lots of water. And I do a lot of what I call smart swaps. So I'll swap yogurt for mayonnaise, and I'll swap coleslaw for French fries. But I really believe if there's a secret to it, it's moderation. I do not believe that it's really hard to sustain a hardcore diet. I guess maybe some people can. I couldn't do it. Okay. This is one of my favorite questions I've been asked. I've always hated to exercise. That was me talking. Any tips? This is a great question because a lot of people don't realize that getting fit is as much a mental game as a physical one. So part of the problem, I think, is the word exercise. I think that word conjures up an image of doing something awful and hurtful and painful. And my breakthrough came when I stopped using the word exercise with myself, and I started thinking movement. So I don't use that word exercise anymore. I say movement. I'm taking a movement class. And if you don't think movement can be fun, just watch any group of young kids at a playground as they move around. That's why this book of mine that National Geographic published is called Just Move! Explanation. It's about moving. It's not really exercise, it's movement. It's getting the body to move. And it's not a matter of age. The other day I watched a Zumba class full of, I'm guessing, 60 and 70-year-old women. They were having a blast dancing to this fast Latin beat. And they were laughing and giggling.
I think that was
Yeah, one or two were even, what's the word, twerking. It was really, but they were having a blast. I can't tell you how much fun they were having. I bet they were 30 or 40 women. And we filmed them for this documentary that we're doing. And they wouldn't miss a class. Another idea that worked for me is, and this is mindset. Instead of saying, I have to go to the gym today, I tell myself, I get to go to the gym today. So change just one word, and you have a very different mindset. So a lot of this is just mindset stuff. Here's one, Jim. How can I get fit when I feel like I can barely move? Well, I think a lot of people feel they're too old or too weak to even try. And it's sad because it's as if they're giving up on life. It doesn't have to be that way. The truth is, it really doesn't matter what shape you're in now. Anyone can become more functionally fit and feel better if they simply focus on what they can do, not on what they can't do. The idea is to start with a low bar and give it your best effort, whatever that is, and then gradually raise the bar, just a little bit at a time. Say there's an exercise that seems impossible to do now, even though you know if you did it, it'd be good for you. Instead of just saying, no, this is not for me, try an easier version. This to me is one of the keys of getting fit when you're older. Just try an easier version. So take the classic, don't groan, push-up. It's the best exercise I know for building both core and upper body strength. So at first, I could not do a single push-up. I couldn't do one. Nope, I tried it. I couldn't even do one. So I tried doing them from my knees. And in about 2 weeks, I finally did one. And what do you think I told myself? If I can do one, maybe next week I can do 2. And I got to about 10. And I'm not going to tell you how long it took me. Well, it took almost a year to do 10. I mean, that's how weak I was. It was really embarrassing. And once I got to 10, I said, I'm gonna try and do a real, honest to goodness push-up with good form. And eventually, over time, I was doing 50. And the honest truth, nobody believes this is true. Doing 50 for me today is much easier than doing 5 when I was just getting started. That's the way it works. So it's just small steps. We're not talking about big leaps and overnight gains. No, I don't know how to do that. Maybe somebody does, not me. So the point is just about anyone can do some version of a push-up. If you can't do a full body push-up, try doing it on your knees. If you can't do it on your knees, try pushing away from a countertop or even the wall. So the idea being there are endless exercises you can do. If you are struggling to do one, just do an easier version. And now we've kind of come down to the heart of this little presentation. You talk about getting in shape and about aging well. Are those the same thing? Well, and this is the heart of the presentation and sort of the heart of what I believe. I believe that fitness is the foundation of aging well. I believe that's true. Now, it's also true, there's a lot more to life than being able to do a bunch of push-ups. But the thing is, fitness, and this is what people often don't think about, fitness is just a means to an end. That's all it is. It's not an end in itself. I don't exercise to say, boy, look at me, look how, not me. I want to live longer, live better. I don't know how to do that if I don't exercise. Okay? So being active and fit, however you define that, it's on your own terms, not my terms. Gives you more energy so you can keep doing the things you enjoy and stay engaged with the world. It can also reduce or even eliminate the aches and pains that plague so many older adults. So fitness is at the heart of aging well. But it's not the whole story, because aging well is an even bigger idea. To me, aging well means taking better care of yourself in body, mind, and spirit. Healthy eating, quality sleep, managing stress. These are all habits to cultivate if you want to live a more fulfilling life. And let's not forget the mental side of this. because the mental well-being can have a profound effect on your happiness. There's no question about this. Science tells us people that have a positive outlook not only live longer than those who don't, they have they feel more satisfaction as they look back over the years. And the final ingredient, in my opinion, this is in this little booklet for aging well, is having a sense of purpose, a reason to be on this earth. And it doesn't need to be something grand or huge. No, just being that special someone to a grandchild, taking care of a parent who's really struggling, an older parent. There are all kinds of ways of bringing meaning into your life. That's what I call a sense of purpose. I was in my 60s when I found my purpose. It was helping people reach for the best in themselves. And that's why I wrote this book, Cowboy Ethics, back in 2004. And that's why my new mission in life is this Just Move campaign, I call it. So I'm going to wind things up here. And here's my own question. Here's my own question to bring up. If I want to age well, what can I do to increase my chance of success? I'd be curious to hear any of you all that have opinions about this. I think there are 3 steps that are key. The first is to find your why, W-H-Y. You've got to find your why. And I think what separates people who start an exercise program and stick with it longer term, they've found their why they want to live longer and live better. Okay? Number 2, I think you have to recognize the power of small steps that can achieve big results over time. So anyone who's older, and that certainly is me, that thinks they can make big leaps is kidding themselves and are headed for a real letdown, if not an injury. It's just small steps. But we often assume that nothing short of a radical lifestyle makeover is good. That's the key. Nope, not true. Small changes are easier to make, and they're also easier to sustain. So what I've learned at my young age I'll be 80 this year, is don't try to make all these changes, healthy eating and exercising. Just make one at a time. And I found that once you start exercising, you kind of start thinking about food. Maybe I should eat a little bit better. Then you start thinking about quality sleep. What can I do? Then you start. So it's a virtuous circle in my opinion. And last but not least, you need to figure out your personal, what I call your personal fitness style. For me, it's not about having the right gym, no, or the right equipment. It's being with the right person. My wife of 51 years, Stanya. So when we work out together, and I cannot tell you how much fun exercise is because we're working out together. We go for walks together. We hold hands. And there's a closeness. I'm just convinced that this has brought us closer together. Your style may be working out in a class and being energized by the music and whatnot, or it may be something solo, swimming or biking or kayaking. I want to close on a personal note. I'm an optimist by nature, but when I turned 70, my optimism hit an all-time low. And was it my chronic back pain? My being tired all the time? I really don't know. All I know is I couldn't shake the feeling that my best days were behind me. That's how I felt. It wasn't depression. I just said, I think they're behind me. The biggest change, I don't feel that way anymore. These days I wake up pain-free, raring to go. And the biggest change has been my outlook on life. I'm really proud of how far I've come. And it's done a lot for my confidence level. And when I meet one of my fitness goals, I think, I can do this. What else can I do? And I'm passionate about the work I'm doing, which Michael referred to, which is spreading the message that we can't help getting older. Nope, cannot help that. But that doesn't mean we have to get old. And again, it's all about making small lifestyle changes. And best of all, I honestly believe my best days still lie ahead. I believe that. Thank you all very, very much. If there are any questions, I will try to answer them. If not, yes, sir.
So I'm sure it's a matter of personal preference, but have you found a time of day that was lent itself for you on establishing the routine, establishing the habit? Just be interested to hear what you say your experience has been on that.
Yeah, my experience has been, and I like where you're going with this. I think it's true. Okay, and it could be in the morning, after. I don't believe the science of this stuff. Okay, but for me, I like working out at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 2:15. Why? I don't know. I've had my lunch, and do I ever work out in the morning? Yeah, some, but not. I don't. For whatever reason, I don't like it. So it's a great question. I think most people that work out, who stick with it, that's why you see your buddies. You know, the same. We all have. Everybody works out. We have gym friends. You see the same people, and I think it's that community that you find when you work out at a regular time. That's a good question. But if you approach it from the scientific point of view, it's a little bit like saying, what's the best exercise? And you know the answer, the one that you actually will do. So I can say burpees. Well, who wants to do burpees? That's no fun. Okay. Anybody else? Anything else, Love? Yes, ma'am.
When you started your exercise program, were you still actively working a full-time job?
The answer is no.
Okay.
No. And the reality of it is, you know, if you're younger, everybody's younger than me, I think, today. Having a family, responsibilities, you know, jobs. I mean, it's tough to do this. What I found is a lot of young single people probably work out more than they need to, and they often get burned out. So, you know, hindsight's always 20/20. I'd given anything if I had started when I was like 50, and to be honest with you, I wouldn't have had to have worked this hard. So the sooner you start, the better. And don't for a second buy this notion you've got to CrossFit or something. That's ridiculous, unless you're 20 or 30. And this kind of fun, you know, it's because it's ego gratifying. But me, I wouldn't do it. So that's my answer. I think that you're never too old, and the younger you are when you start, But I started when I was 70. If I had been 50 or 60, I wouldn't have had to have worked this hard. That's all I can say. Yes, sir.
How long do your sessions take a day?
1 hour. And so when I do cardio, it's 30 minutes. So I do 3 1-hour training sessions. And I should tell everybody this. It's not all, the sessions include foam rolling and warming up. The actual, strength training is probably only about 20 minutes. I do a lot of stretching, a lot of what I call movement. And I'm so much more mobile now at this age than I was 20 or 30 years ago. So when I say strength training, you have an image of someone who's working out, for an hour as a gym rat. Not me. I want to get in, get out. But it's about an hour a day. Anything else? Any other questions about aging well or training? Yes, sir.
What are several of your best tips about nutrition, eating well?
Boy.
We're getting ready to have dinner, so.
Yeah, he's killed
I go on. I don't live in fad diets, but I essentially follow what I would call the Mediterranean diet. I eat a lot of fish. Okay, and anybody that says the red meat's going to kill you, I say I don't believe it. Something's going to kill you. Peanut butter or something. I don't buy it. I eat red meat. I just don't eat it more than twice a week. I used to love bacon, and I do miss it. But I used to eat 3 or 4 pieces of bacon with my eggs. I think the processed foods in general are best if you keep them to a minimum. But the Mediterranean diet is simple. It's just a lot of fish, a lot of vegetables. Okay. But I'm not a fanatic, and I don't miss a lot of the other stuff, to be honest about it. So it's just, I believe in moderation. And when you have dinner in a place like the Argyle, whatever I tell you about my diet, no. I'm just a good talker. That's all I do. I'll have pasta probably or something with my, sure. But that's not every day. Anything else? I want to thank, last question. Yes, sir.
You take any supplements or anything?
What's that?
Supplements. Take any vitamins, supplements or anything?
I do. And I'm not sure what they do for you. And it's all doctor's orders. And I'm not an MD. I'm not an MD or any of that stuff. I question if we need all that. But the doctor says, Jim, you need some more iron or something. I don't know. I said, okay. There's this thing that we're doing, the documentary is called The Art of Aging Well. I don't believe it's a science. If it was, then there would be a formula. One size fits all. Here's the formula. No. We're all different. We respond to food differently. Some people can eat like a horse and never gain a pound. Other people look at food and they seem to gain weight. It's just whatever works for you. But I hope this has been helpful, and I know it's we all struggle with exercising and aging well, and I wish I had a secret. If you all have got a secret, please tell me, because I would love to hear. Yes, ma'am.
I think it's important to remember that being fit is not the same thing as being skinny.
Oh, good.
Could not agree more. And there are people who are fit as can be, who don't fit, whose body type doesn't fit the image in the magazines. And this whole idea of body shaming somebody is ridiculous, because we're all born with a certain body type. Can you change your body type? Not really. I'm glad you brought that up, but not the same thing. One last thing, and then I'm going to sign off here. A few of us, I'm sure, watch the Democratic debate Thursday night. Whether you agree or not, it's kind of fun to watch part of it. And what's fascinating to me is that everyone talks about health care in terms of insurance. How do we pay for it? What not one person is talking about is self-care. Do we each have the responsibility for for being accountable? So if someone, this is not the same as body shaming, if somebody is 80 pounds overweight, smokes, maybe they take drugs, okay, doesn't exercise at all, and sits all day, if that person expects me to pay for their health care, I don't agree with that. Now, if something happens to you, I mean, particularly with younger people, I mean, a child that's born with something, oh my God, of course. But I really think we've gone too far in the wrong direction. We should be talking, this is what this film is about, trying to motivate people, trying to inspire people to get off the couch and do what they can to live a longer, happier life. Does that mean they're fit? You tell me what fit means. I don't know. But it means a healthier, happier lifestyle. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.